We can't hear you. We can't hear you properly, Deputy Chief Whip.
I'm in Pelican Park. My network is bad. Yes, I was saying on the late response, that report by ministers, the late responses. I think I would suggest that we take it back to the Chief Whip's forum so that we can process it properly there. Then we come with a concrete suggestion on what to do. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Okay, I will say a word on that matter, Deputy Chief Whip. I think we must take a slightly different route. But let me give members first. Honorable Shivambo, I see your hand there. And then Honorable Kalipe.
Yeah, there's an issue which we had written to the Speaker yesterday about in relation to questions, because there's a worrying tendency that is emerging, particularly from the Minister of Health, which I think must be nipped in the bud of refusing to answer questions on the basis of what he calls non-disclosure agreements. I don't think that it is within the constitutional rights for a minister to go and enter into secret agreements and then refuse accountability in Parliament. And I would think that there should be a guidance that is given to whoever is involved in government responsibilities, that you can't keep secrets to Parliament, because how are we going to oversee the activities of the state if people are just going to say, no, it is non-disclosure disagreements? Because if that is permissible, a lot of departments, if not all, can just take that route of saying, no, these are non-disclosure agreements which we have, would therefore cannot be held accountable in Parliament. I think that we should guide as public representatives, those who are in the executive, that that cannot be applicable when it comes to parliamentary accountability in terms of what we demand to know. Because particularly the phase that we're in now, there must be clarity and honesty that is told to Parliament in relation to the rollout of vaccines. How much is the state paying for that? All of those things. So I'm just dealing with that in a present principle issue, that there must not be any NDA that precludes or subverts democratic accountability.
Honorable Shivambo, my attention has been brought to your letter to the Speaker, and she will be responding to you. We will get to know about it as soon. Honorable Mkalipe.
No, Deputy Speaker, I think I'm partly covered by the Deputy President of EFF, because we raised this issue on the Chiefs Forum yesterday as well. And we promised that Mkhaso will come back with a response, but we raised it very sharp to say that it must not happen. No minister must undermine the work of Parliament, saying that he can't respond to any question by the Member of Parliament. But nevertheless, Deputy Speaker, I also want to raise the concern of the ministers who does not want to give replies, especially, you see, even COGTA, we are in a deep crisis as local government, and the Minister of COGTA also failed to reply to the questions that members are posing to her. So I'm looking forward on what you are going to propose here, Deputy Speaker, as you alluding to that fact earlier. Thank you.
No, on this matter of the questions, yeah, we'll talk to that, yeah. Honorable Singh, is this an old hand or are you coming back? Honorable Shivambo, please lower
Deputy
your
Speaker,
hand. Yes.
Deputy Speaker, it's a new hand from the old hand, but I'm looking forward to your response to the Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC. I think I can, I know what you're going to say, but I certainly don't agree that the matter be taken back to the Chief Whip's forum. Thank you.
I didn't know you're a bone thrower now, Honorable Singh. You know what I'm going to say. Dade Sheikh, is this an old hand or is it a new one?
No, it's a new one. First of all, allow me to wish you a very happy belated birthday, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, yeah,
thank you, sir.
My concern is My concern is, the late responses in terms of it. And you'd find that it is exactly the same ministers, whether it's oral or whether it is written, that appear to be very late in terms of their responses. And I think it's a matter that needs to be dealt with the Deputy President who's responsible for government business. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
But again, Deputy Speaker, the problem that I have is the entire system of question and answers. And I think Honorable Shivambu was dealing to something earlier on now, and that is where you ask certain questions and you don't get the response. Now, what is happening at the moment? You ask a question, you get a response. If you take in a portfolio committee, 10 of us or 15 of us will ask the question, then we get a chance to response from the minister. And if the minister does not respond, it ends there. We don't get any written responses and things. So really, I think it affects the actual oversight of members. And I'm wondering whether we can't change the system where we ask questions, we get an answer, and, based on maybe time allocation, so that we get the response you're actually looking for, or deal with that matter and get the response, rather than deviating from it. And then 9 out of 10 times we're not getting the responses. Like yesterday in the health committee, there were some very important issues that we were raising, and we couldn't get the answers. It's difficult, we know it is. So I just thought maybe we should consider that and see whether we shouldn't really re-look at how we do this actual question and answer session in portfolio committee meetings and in Parliament as well. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Ndaditras, please go ahead and respond in a way that you are able to do so on this, and then I'll make my comment after that.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm going to respond on two issues. One, what is being done to address the issue of non-response to questions or outstanding replies. This matter was discussed in the subcommittee last week, and the subcommittee agreed that it must be on the agenda of the Rules Committee, the next Rules Committee meeting. And just to give the context, Deputy Speaker, in the 5th Parliament, the Rules Committee had agreed to set up a subcommittee on replies to questions, or the failure by the executive to reply to questions. That matter was agreed to. It was before the House, but it was never scheduled for consideration by the House. So there is a mechanism that is authorized by the rules that the Rules Committee has agreed to. And our advice would be that mechanism be resuscitated, just in terms of it being adopted, so that it becomes applicable. It's a subcommittee chaired by the Deputy Speaker, where ministers would be held to account, those who do not reply to questions. So that is what is in the pipeline currently. So I would be reluctant for the matter to go to the Chief Whips Forum, because it's a Rules Committee matter, and I think it should be finalized at that level. That's the first thing. Secondly, I'm going to ask the head of the Questions Office to indicate what is done on a regular basis in terms of bringing to the attention of the executive the matter of outstanding replies. Mr. Plakis?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Deputy Speaker.
Good morning.
The Questions Office regularly send reports to the Leader of Government Business, which gets tabled as part of the Cabinet reports on a regular basis when Cabinet meets. The ministers, therefore, are admonished or encouraged to answer questions, and those who have adverse reports are being addressed. And so far, this is one of the mechanisms that the Questions Office has used on a regular basis to submit reports of outstanding questions, Deputy Speaker.
All right. Honorable members, what I wanted to say is that already in the previous term, I took from the Questions Office outstanding questions and phoned each minister myself to raise issues with them. In a number of instances, we were able to clear a significant number of outstanding questions. This time we haven't done it, and it's still worth doing it. But I agree that let's bring in the mechanism that was agreed upon. And also, in addition to using that mechanism, as was looked at as a subcommittee of the Rules Committee, which is the main decision-making body, so that we exercise authority of Parliament over these matters here. The parliamentary councillor of the deputy president, leader of government business, is usually in this meeting here. I want to ask whether he has any information to let us know, in addition to what Michael Plachis just told us now. That Hope, are you here?
I don't seem to see his name, Deputy Speaker.
Okay.
Right. But Deputy Speaker, just
yes.
With your permission,
yeah.
sir, just give this context. The report we have given, these are questions of 2020, and which would now have lapsed already. So the first question paper for the current annual session has been issued today. It starts from today. So these are 2020 questions, not current questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Is there someone with a hand up? I don't see that.
Oh, Mr. Papo
yes, there is, Deputy Speaker. I have my hand raised, Deputy Speaker.
Oh, go ahead and speak, and then Date Papo will follow you.
Yes, Deputy Speaker, I think...
Unless...
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I wanted to know whether you don't want to listen to Date Papo first.
That's fine.
And then you can make your comment here. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll call you back here. Date Papo, please go ahead.
Deputy Speaker, I've been in the meeting since it started. There's no change from what was reported last week and reflected in the minutes. And Mr. Plagi, what he's saying is actually correct, because this matter goes to Cabinet every time it meets. The list is provided. The Deputy President speaks to the matter of unanswered questions in every Cabinet meeting when the report of the leader of government business is discussed. The issue of what Mr. Kaso raised may actually be of assistance when the subcommittee processes what can be done in the rules to amend the rules to actually deal with that, particularly what Mr. Sheikh raised on follow-up. If there are unanswered questions, all those factors need to be taken care of when the subcommittee meets to look at that issue. But what Mr. Plagi says, what happens?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. In other words, the intention of the Rules Subcommittee to report to the Rules Committee is to strengthen our ability to have recourse if this problem continues. Okay, we must have recourse. It must not be perhaps feel as if we can't do anything about it. Asuguzo Baba.
Yes, Deputy Speaker, I wanted to weigh in on what Honorable Sheikh Imam said, especially insofar as it emphasizes the point which I want to say, stress again, that ours now is a problem of procedural compliance, where ministers just offer responses. They are even failing to answer questions. Yes, I know that we're saying we're going to deal with that. But I wish personally that there could be a mechanism that would help us with more substantive compliance. Because the challenge you have is that responses are offered in the majority of instances, but 60 to 70% of the time, there are responses that are very unhelpful when you consider them in light of the question that has been asked. And that is in particular a serious problem, as he is saying, in portfolio committees. Remember, you would wait for an opportunity to ask questions. 90% of the time, when the responses are being offered, they are very poor and do not address the issue. And then before the committee usually finishes, then the minister has to leave. And departments would promise to provide responses in detail later on. And those responses would also completely and spectacularly miss the point that we're trying to cover. So there needs to be a mechanism that we can develop. We can look at the responses to question in a more substantive light rather than just procedural light. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, let's agree that we will do that. We will seek
Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
My apologies
yes.
for this.
Okay, go ahead, Deputy Chief Whip.
You there. Yes, thank you, Deputy Speaker. We had this matter on, we referred it back to the Rules Committee for the Speaker to put it on the table, on the agenda, so that we can deal. And also we request that that mechanism which lapsed be resuscitated, so that when it comes to the subcommittee. Exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I will recommend to the Speaker as well, if I may say so, honorable members, that in the meantime, she can, by way of a statement in the House, name ministers whose replies have not forthcome, and there are many, and that we take this matter urgently in a serious manner, that and do indicate this matter is going to the Rules Committee to strengthen our ability and recourse for questions answers, so that this is one of the steps we will take. I'm reporting here that that's what I will request her to do on our behalf, to be able to get the problem solved, including, if necessary, the president should enter the fray and urge ministers to do what they are supposed to do. Honorable members, shall we proceed?
Yeah.
These were matters arising. We can't exhaust it. Let's further consider the issues when we next come. Let's go to the next item on the agenda.
Should be report by committee section, sir.
Why are they quiet now? Surely they have an agenda. You are the next on the item here.
Good morning, Deputy Speaker, honorable members and colleagues. I waited to be given the opportunity. I am here.
You are the next item on the agenda. You don't have to wait to be called by name. When we say the next item on the agenda, it's you. If it is you in this instance, for example, please go ahead, Ndati.
My apology. Deputy Speaker, honorable members and colleagues, the presentation from committees starts from slide number 4. Now, on this slide, it is the ad hoc committee to amend section 25 of the Constitution. The committee met yesterday to review its program, and the way forward is as follows. The program is still to be approved by the House Chair, but for the purpose of the meeting, we are indicating what is being planned. On the 12th and the 16th, the committee will be considering the public report on public participation, and on the 16th, the 16th and the 19th, the committee will be considering the responses to submissions, especially the legal questions. And the committee will also have deliberations on the bill on the 23rd of February, on the 26th of February, on the 5th of March, and also on the 12th of March. And the committee is planning to finalize and report on the 19th of March. The next update, Deputy Speaker, I just want to indicate that the following 3 slides talks to gender-based violence bills. There was a request in a previous meeting that we put clarity as to when they are going to be finalized. The update on slide number 14. On this slide, It is the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Bill before PC on Justice. It is a gender-based violence related bill. The committee is planning to finalize on the 16th of March, and other activities are indicated as follows. On the 16th, the committee will consider the legal opinion, and on the 19th, the committee will have deliberations. On the 3rd and the 9th and the 10th of March, the committee will also have further deliberations. The next update is on slide number 16. On this slide, it is also a domestic violence amendment bill before PC on Justice, which is a gender-based violence-related bill. The committee is going to consider the legal opinion on the 16th of February and finalize the bill on the 24th of March. The next update is on slide number 18. Deputy Speaker, it is also a gender-based violence-related bill. It is Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Bill before PC on Justice and Correctional Services. On the 16th of February, the committee will consider the legal opinion on the bill, and then on the 24th of March, the committee will finalize the bill. The next update is on slide number 21. On this slide, it is Civil Aviation Amendment Bill before PC on Transport. The committee considered the written submissions on the 27th of March and is planning public hearings on the 16th and the 17th of February. The next update is on slide number 24. On this slide, it is the Financial Sector Laws Amendment Bill before the Standing Committee on Finance. The committee is planning deliberations on the 10th of March. The next update is on slide number 25. It is Pension Funds Amendment Bill before Standing Committee on Finance. The committee is planning deliberations on the 11th of March. The next update is on slide number 26. It is Liquor Products Amendment Bill before Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. The committee will consider and finalize its report on the 16th of February. The next update is on slide number 28. That is the 2021 fiscal framework. It is the document that will be tabled during the budget speech. We are putting it here because it has a bearing on the budget processes. On the 25th of February, after the tabling, the committee will have the briefing by the minister. On the 2nd of March, the committee will have briefings by Parliamentary Budget Office and FFC. And then on the 3rd of March, the committee will be having public hearings. On the 5th of March, the committee will consider responses to public submissions by the National Treasury. And on the 9th of March, the committee will consider and adopt the reports with the view that the report will be before plenary on the 10th of March. The next update is on slide number 29. It is Division of Revenue Bill, the 2021 bill, not yet referred because it will be referred after the budget speech. The matter is before Standing Committee on Appropriation. On the 25th of February, the committee will receive briefings from the minister. The 2nd of March will receive the briefings by PBO and FFC. The 3rd of March, the briefings by SALCA. The 9th of March, further briefings by Parliamentary Budget Office and FFC. On the 12th of March, public hearings, and the committee is planning to adopt the report on the 16th of March with the view that the report will be before plenary on the 9th of March to allow the 3-day rule processes. The next update is on slide number 31. It is also a matter before Standing Committee on Finance, that is Fiscal Responsibility Bill. The committee will have deliberations on the 11th of March. The next update is on slide number 34. On this slide, it is sectional titles amendment bill before PC on agriculture, land reform and rural development. The committee will have briefings on the 23rd of March. The next update is on slide number 36. That is local government municipal structure amendment bill before PC on COCTA. The committee will have briefings on the 10th. It had briefings on the 10th, that was yesterday, and the committee is planning to adopt the bill on the 16th of February. In the last NAPC meeting, there was a question as to whether the bill is having a bearing on the coming local government elections. Looking at the title, it looked like the answer will be yes, because among others, the bill deals with who will not qualify to be a councillor, the minimum number of councillors per municipality, and clarity on the day of assumption of duty by councillors, and also to allow for an extension on declaration of results. I would say, Deputy Chair, with your permission, colleagues from legal services may also come in to maybe confirm if the understanding is correct, so that there is clarity on the matter. But that is my view looking at the long title of the bill. The next update is on slide number 37. That is the customary initiation bill before PC on COCTA. The committee had briefings on the 10th of February considering the proposed amendments by NCOP, and the committee is planning to adopt the bill on the 16th of February. The next update is on slide number 38. That is economic regulation of transport bill before PC on transport. The committee is planning deliberations on the 27th of January. It had deliberation on the 27th of January and further deliberations on the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 10th of February. The next update on slide number 39. On this slide, it is National Road Traffic Amendment Bill before PC on transport. The committee considered written submissions on the 10th of February, and the committee is planning public hearings on the 5th of March. The next update is on slide number 40. It is expropriation bill before Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure. The committee has called for written submission, and the closing date is the 28th of February. The next update is on slide number 43. On this slide, it is Children's Amendment Bill before the Portfolio Committee on Social Development. The committee is planning briefings on the 17th of February by the department, by SALCA, and by the Department of Home Affairs. And the committee is planning public hearings from the 9th up to the 12th of March. The next update is on slide number 46. This is a statutory appointment. The SABC board, before PC on communications, the committee is planning the shortlistings on the 16th of February, interviews on the 2nd of March, and adoption of the report on the 10th of March. The next update is on slide number 47. It's also a statutory appointment before PC on communication, that is Media Development and Diversity Agency. The committee is planning shortlisting on the 16th of February, interviews on the 2nd of March, and adoption of the report on the 10th of March. The next update is on slide number 49. It is filling of vacancies on the national, that is NYDA matter. This matter has already been reported on, but I can also report that the committee had adopted its report going forward, subject to the referral after the question by the House. The next update is on slide 50. It is the appointment of the National Forensic Oversight Ethics Board before PC on police. The adverts have been released for the period the 31st of January up to the 22nd of February, and the committee will have briefings by the minister on the 2nd of March, and the committee will do the shortlisting on the 9th of March. The aim is to finalize this process during the second term. The next update is on slide number 55. That is petitions. It is a petition before Panora Park in Kipton Park, before PC on human settlements, water and sanitation. The committee is planning to finalize this petition on the 12th, which is tomorrow. This concludes our report, Deputy Speaker, honorable members and colleagues.
Thank you, Tati. Honorable members, before I give you an opportunity to raise questions, let me hand over to Honorable Frolik. I have to step outside to do a few media interviews related to this evening. Honorable Frolik, I hand over to you, sir.
No, thank you, Deputy Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. There's a few hands that I see. The Honorable Mazoni is first, followed by the Honorable Savambu, and then the Honorable Opafu. In that order, please. The Honorable Mazoni.
Thank you, Mr. Frolik. I'm afraid that's an old hand.
Honorable Savambu.
No, thanks, as Chair. Is it deliberate that there's no report on what is happening on the ad hoc committee to amend Section 25 of the Constitution? Because there's a program that is agreed upon there, and it doesn't seem to be part of this committee report and everything else. Specifically, the process that we're busy with to amend Section 25 of the Constitution. I have not seen it. If it's there, it's a mistake.
Yeah. No, Honorable Shavambu, it was flighted right in front of the presentation. It's on the screen again. So the program is there, and it will go through the necessary processes as the committee processes unfold. Thank you for that observation. Are there any other questions of clarity on the program? If there are no further questions of clarity on the program, I will ask the Bills Office to table their report.
Thank you, House Chairperson. With your permission. Thank you, House Chairperson. With your permission, I would like to hand over straight to my colleagues in Legal Services for an update on Constitutional Court deadlines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Legal
good morning.
Services, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, members. Please allow me to take you through the presentation on the Constitutional Court judgments that require an action. It's quite a lengthy one, but that is because mostly we have a lot of movement. There are 4 new judgments that we have to take into account. 3 of these do not have any read-in provision, and 1 will not leave any gap in the law. The first one, the Riotous Assemblies Act, is the one where there is a reading provision, and there will accordingly be no gap in the law. On this matter, we have already sent an opinion to the chairperson of the relevant committee, and we are in talks to do a presentation to that committee on their options. The next one is the Correctional Services Act. On this one, there's no reading provision, and our suspension of the order lapses on the 3rd of December 2022. On this one, there was an opinion sent to the chairperson of the relevant committee as well. We are asking to present, but we've also informally heard from the department that they are already planning to bring a bill in August of this year. If we can go to the next slide, the Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act. Sorry, if we can go to that, thank you. The Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act. Again, there is no reading provision in this matter. We've already sent an opinion to the relevant committee, and we have asked to present and take the committee through their options. The last new case is very recent, Regulation of Interception of Communications and Provision of Communication-Related Information Act. With this one, there is a read-in, but only during the period of suspension. And on this one, the court gave us 3 years to correct the defect. So our the order lapses 3 February 2024. However, that does not mean that we can sit back and wait for a year or so. So an opinion is being prepared for the attention of the chairperson, and when we discuss with the committee the same process of getting in touch with the executive, finding out how this is going to be addressed, and making that important decision within 6 months will still be proposed. Then, if we go on to the next slide, slide 4, these are matters that are already have already been presented to the committees, and it's just progress that I'm reporting on. On the Electoral Act, the New Nation Movement matter of independent candidates, in this week, the Minister provided a progress update to the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, and basically a policy has been prepared, and this is going to be presented to Cabinet, and it seems that there will be a whole review of the electoral system considered. The next one, the Correctional Services Act. And this is where, in fact, this is a bit old news, but then this is the first time that I'm presenting this year. The bill was introduced on the 24th of November of last year, and the committee has indicated that they are targeting the 23rd of February of this year for their bill and their report to be tabled in the House for second reading. So we will see progress on that soon. The next slide, the Upgrading of Land Tenure Rights Act. This one, our deadline is quite close, but it has been passed by the National Assembly. It is currently before the National Council, and both the Council Programming Committee and the relevant Select Committee have been briefed on the matter. They are aware of this impending deadline. The last matter, the Local Government Municipal Systems Amendment Act. This one has already lapsed, but just to give some progress, it has been passed by the National Assembly and is transmitted to the National Council of Provinces for concurrence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions of clarity from the members of the Programming Committee? I see one hand. Honorable Shivambu.
No, thanks, Chair. I think that we perhaps should resume the process which we had proposed in the 5th Parliament of knowing all the legislation that was passed prior 1994 in terms of what happens, because it does not need the Constitutional Court to sometimes, to actually always be the one that reverses the irrational, mostly racist legislation that were enacted under apartheid. Why can't we proactively deal with that? Let's get all the list of legislations that were passed by the nonsensical apartheid regime. And then we know that some of these things will just repeal them, some we then deal with them decisively to say that let us bring them in compliance with the Constitution. Why should it require a cumbersome, long court processes? People even get to be charged. The Commander-in-Chief of the EFF was charged by an apartheid law passed in 1956. It had to go through lots of court cases, Constitutional Court to reverse or repeal a legislation which proactively, as legislators, we could have dealt with without having wasted the time and the resources that were dedicated to deal with a simple legislation like that. I think that let us resume the process of repealing all apartheid legislation and truly decolonize South Africa. It's one of the issues that we must look into. Perhaps the first step towards that could be to get a list of all the legislations that are in effect but were passed prior 1994. Then we then set a process of how we handle that moving forward. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Shivambu. The Honorable Majodina.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, let me support what Honorable Shivambu is saying. There are a lot of legislation that needs to be amended, the prior 1994 legislation. On this presentation on the 4 new judgments that has been brought to us, I want to request, Chair, that Parliament develop a clear roadmap on what must happen on each and every act by when, so as to adhere to the court deadlines and timeframes. But these are not the only court judgments. These are not the only 4. If in our next meeting, the team can just bring all those court judgments and their deadline so that we are not found as Parliament not having done our work. That will be my proposal, Chair. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. The Honourable Singh.
Thank you very
Honourable
much.
Frolik, it's also Natasha, if you could take me after Honourable Singh, please.
Will do.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. If my memory serves me correct, we did start a process of looking at pre-1994 legislation. We were provided with a long list of such legislation. I don't know where we ended up with that process. Perhaps Advocate van der Merwe or somebody else can tell us where we ended up on the process. So we don't start the process ab initio, but we take it from where we left off. But there was a long list that was provided to us, and we need to take that process. I agree we need to do it, but let's start from where we left off. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Mazoni.
Thank you, Honourable Frolik. Honourable Frolik, yes, I have a list of the legislation, the pre-1994 legislation that was set to be changed. It was, if I'm not mistaken, Honourable Singh will remember this, it was about 116 pieces of legislation that required amendment. But Honourable Frolik, I think what we need to look at urgently is the fact that in the last Parliament, we managed to pass and enact 13 pieces of legislation, which I think is very worrying. Which brings me to the point of this deadline that we've set for the 23rd of February, bearing in mind that today we're already on the 11th of February, and we have a week ahead of us of SONA activities, which means that all committee activities virtually grinds to a halt. So I think what we need to do is we need to be realistic about the legislation that we put in front of ourselves, and that we need to hold the committees especially accountable when they are given a piece of legislation that they need to deal with, that they adhere to the timeframes that are given to them, and if they cannot, that they report to your office, sir, and that you are able to then report back to us whether or not you consider the reason for non-adhering to it sufficient or insufficient, and if it's insufficient, then we take the necessary action. But certainly this Parliament cannot be a repeat of the last one where only 13 pieces of legislation are dealt with. Thank you.
No, thank you, honourable members, and thank you for the comments. Just to say, there is a mechanism that we've put in place between the legal services and the chairpersons of those committees. Legal services regularly send out communication to the chairpersons of these committees, and they copy me into it. And from my side, I engage with the chairpersons, look into their programs, but at certain points there are difficulties that the committee themselves cannot deal with, and that's a reason for possible delay where departments get involved. But I do take the point, Honourable Mazoni, is something that we must continuously take note of, so that we avoid getting to deadlines that cannot be honoured. And then the point raised by the Honourable Shivambu, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, and Honourable Singh. There's not much to say about it, simply to say that a list was produced and we will need at the next meeting an update of where we are, but more importantly, the way forward on how to process that list that has been provided to us. I do not think that the NA table, together with legal services, is currently in a position to tell us how they want us to proceed on that, unless you have different information. Mr. Kaso, would you like to speak on this item?
Chair, we would rather take the direction that you have given, that we look into the matter and provide advice at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else from the Bill's office?
Chairperson.
Yes.
Chair, on the local government one, Municipal System Amendment Bill, I thought that Tatutau, when he was presenting, he alluded that this one is back to the COCTA PC. And he said that he thinks that the legal advisor, he can also take us through if this has an effect on local government.
Okay. May I request the legal office, can you respond to the honourable member who have raised the issue of the local government elections amendment bill.
Honourable Chairperson.
Services? Yes.
Yes, Chairperson. Good morning. I'm Frank Jenkins here. My team is looking into that bill. Yes, Chair, I do think it has a direct impact. It deals with a change in the minimum number of councillors that a municipality can have, so there might be changes. There's a lot in the bill about filling of vacancies and so on that might not have direct changes for the elections, but maybe down the line. And then there's also the removal of a plenary as a municipal structure, specifically in district municipalities. So I think that there will be changes in structures of municipalities which will have to have action and be sorted out prior to that, Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chief Whip of the Majority Party, I see you have your hand up. Also, the Honourable Shavambu still has his hand up. Do you want to?
Yes, I do.
I apologize. Mine is the old hand. I'm so sorry. Let me lower it.
Thank you. Honourable Shavambu.
No, yes, I've raised my. I didn't understand what the Secretary of the National Assembly said in relation to what we raised the concern about in the last meeting of what is the permissible time for a president to sign bills that have been passed by Parliament? What happens? Because if a person is going to take a bill for more than 24 months or 36 months, like is the case now with some of the legislation that are before the president, then it becomes problematic because it subverts Parliament's democratic right to pass legislation. And then someone, because of political differences, says, I won't sign this. We have to have a mechanism on how that happens so that there's a separation of powers in the manner that is envisaged in the Constitution. So I didn't understand the explanation that was given in the matters arising. So I think that there must be a clear resolution of what becomes the approach to legislation that has been passed by Parliament and in relation to just what time period should the president sign.
Mr. Kaso, do you want to respond to this again?
Yes, House Chair, I had indicated that at the last meeting, Speaker said she would seek a legal opinion on the matter, and a legal opinion has since been provided, and Speaker is studying the legal opinion and will report at the appropriate time, I suspect next week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kaso. Honourable members, I will now invite the programming work to present the next item, which is the program framework.
Chair, with your permission, the programming whip has asked me to assist to present the program.
Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. This evening, we have the joint sitting at 1900 hours. And next week, of course, tomorrow is committees, Monday, Constituency, and next week we will have the debate on the State of the Nation address, 16th and the 17th, 18th, reply by the President, 19th, committees. The following week, then on the 23rd, there will be a sitting of the NA. The items on the agenda is a debate on the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccination plan and the report of the PC on youth, the report on the NYDA. Once the House adopts this report, the committee will then restart the process. And we're also completing some BRR reports as well on the day. We just would like to point out that there had been an agreed approach to BRRs, that declarations of vote are up to 2 minutes, and we will therefore prepare a motion to that effect. And then on the 24th is budget day, and the 25th will be condolence motions on all the former members that are listed in the program. And then the following week, we would then start with questions for oral reply, starting with cluster 1, And Thursday, we have those members' motions there. And we just want to explain to honorable members that this follows the rotation that had been agreed to. And this is how it goes. But we will circulate the rotation so that members can see it for themselves. This is how it is at the moment. And then on the 8th is Constituency Day. And I want to see the rest of March, please. And we have the sittings there, Cluster 2. And we then have another set of mini plenaries. And yes, the rest is again questions that will follow. The one matter that must still be reflected on the program, sir, is the member statements. Those will be reflected in March. And the motions, notices of motions, certainly. And there was a view that also motions without notice should be reflected, and that will be taken care of. I see the programming whip has her hand up, and maybe I should let her, or to you, Chair, maybe she wants to add something to what I've said. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kaso. The programming whip may continue.
I'm not continuing. Morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Klaso. This is just to thank Mr. Klaso for presenting on my behalf. I'm not feeling well. Thank you. You can continue, Mr. Klaso.
No, thank you. Programming whip, Mr. Kaso has completed his presentation on the program. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir. I am done. Thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize the following hand. The Honorable Julius, you may go, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable House. Honorable Frolic, just one issue. That was also, I raised it in Chief Oops yesterday, any movement on questions to the Deputy President. I note that there are movement to amend the rules in terms of questions to the Deputy President and his appearance, but we have the current rules. Is there any movement on that? Thank you.
Are there any further input before I allow Mr. Kaso to respond? If not, Mr. Kaso?
Chair, we are still awaiting information from the Office of the Leader of Government Business. We have not received any information further to what we gave yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaso. Honorable members, that is the program. I don't see any further indications for questions of clarity or input. Thank you for the presentation, and we move to the last item on the agenda, which is announcements. Are there any announcements? There's no further announcements. Honorable members, that concludes this meeting, and the meeting is thus adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.